What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are on part 2 of the E30 rebuild video. If you haven't checked out part 1 where we pull the old motor out, go check it out. I'll put the link down in the description so you can check that part out. Today, what we're basically going to be doing the whole time is maintenance on the new motor. I ordered a whole bunch of stuff from SCP Hero, and we'll go over kind of unboxing all that first. But we got a bunch of parts off SCP Hero that are gonna have to go on the new motor. Gaskets, water pump, timing belt, thermostat, just a bunch of stuff, spark plugs. So we gotta put all that on the new motor before it goes in the car. And basically in the meantime, since the last video, I've just been cleaning everything. Cleaning the crap out of everything. I cleaned the engine bay. All the parts that came out of the car were super dirty. And I even cleaned the new block off a little bit. I'm gonna put the clips from me cleaning in, like right around here. So as you can see, everything is pretty clean now, to the best of my abilities. You know, I could get it all like sandblasted and repainted and whatnot, but you know, it's just greasy. So everything's clean now, and we're basically just gonna start on doing the E30. I'm gonna go over doing a timing belt, water pump, front and rear main seal, putting the clutch on, putting the transmission in. Basically everything like that will be covered in this video before we actually install everything into the car. So now I'm gonna open all the boxes that we got from SCP Hero, and I'm gonna kind of lay out all the maintenance items that we got, and we will go over that. guys, here's all of the stuff goes in those boxes from SCP Hero. So this is a bunch of maintenance items. So I'm just gonna start on this side. This is a full gasket set for the head gasket up. I don't think we'll be replacing the head gasket right now because I want to do ARP head studs before I do that. So we'll do every other gasket besides the head gasket. And here's the oil pan gasket. We have a full liquid moly oil change for it. We've got drive belt, spark plugs, pilot bearing, front main seal, rear main seal, oil filter, air filter, red line trans fluid, OEM BMW coolant, 2 gallons, and slave cylinder, master cylinder, timing belt, tensioner, water pump, new coolant hoses, clutch line, and a bunch more. There's more stuff, but that's pretty much the gist of it. That's most of it. We have a single mass flywheel that just got resurfaced. It's a little dirty. The clutch that came with the car, this clutch is almost brand new, so I'm just gonna throw it in now. And then we have this 5-speed GetRag GT60, all cleaned up. It was really dirty before. So we got that cleaned up. All the parts are here. Everything is good to go. So now is the time to start on all of the maintenance on this guy. Remember, this was the motor from the original video I posted. 144,000 miles, pretty good condition. Everything looks good inside. We took the oil pan off. We actually cleaned this up quite a bit. So everything looks good, but first order of business on maintenance, and I'm going to be trying to do a DIY on all of this, just as a good refresher if you're putting a motor in your car or whatever, if you're just doing maintenance in general. But this will be a little different because it's already out of the car and a lot of the accessories are already off. But the accessories are easy to take off, and once you get down to it, that's where I'll show you what to do. So first thing we're going to do is front main seal and timing belt, tensioner, and water pump. So I'm not going to waste any more time talking. We're just going to dive right in, and I will show you guys how to start up at the front. Alright, you guys, obviously this isn't the same as if it was in the car, but to do the timing belt, we first have to remove this upper timing cover. So first thing to do that is obviously to get this fan clutch off. Fan clutch is attached to the water pump pulley. Pretty easy to get off. You need a 32 millimeter. They make specialty tools for this, but this is a bike wrench actually. Works the same. You can order them on SCP Hero, which I obviously didn't do. And then you just need something to hold the pulley. And I'm just gonna use a CV fork because that seems to be what fits. So obviously it just goes on, and these are counter spun, so tightening it actually loosens it. So I already cracked this, but basically just comes off like that, and then you just unscrew the okay, well, don't drop it, but you get it off, all good. They should have a little resistance, but not a lot. This one kind of has a lot of resistance. Now we're going to pull the water pump pulley and the distributor. These are pretty easy to pull off. That's a 10 mil, I believe that's a 12. So we'll just pull both those off real quick, and then we'll have access to the upper timing cover. Alright, now we have everything pretty much off, and it's all pretty much exposed. You'd obviously have a lot less room in a car, but this is basically what you're looking at. So you got water pump, camshaft pulley, tensioner, crank pulley. So the way to time this, there's 2 timing marks. There's a timing mark on the cam, and there's a timing mark on the crank. So there's this little line. Let's get it to focus. Okay, so there's a line on the camshaft right here, and then there's a line on the head right there. So you want those to line up, and then those should line up with a line on the crankshaft, and that lines up with a little indent on the cover. So those two should be lined up at the same time, which means it's a top dead center for cylinder 1. And then all you gotta do is remove the tensioner, make sure nothing moves, and your belt's off. So we'll go ahead and pull the belt off, pull the tensioner off, and then remove this water pump as well, because that's gonna be changed. And I believe we do have in that gasket set that I got, these little seals right here behind the cam sprocket. So I'll probably replace those, which we just have to pull the cam sprocket off, which is pretty easy. And then kind of go from there. So let's get started on pulling the belt off. Got a lot done there. Forgot to click record for part of it, but we got everything out over here. This front, or I guess this is the lower timing cover, but it's where the front main seal sits. It's a little hard to get off. The main bolt, so this big guy, that's 22 millimeter. That thing is just wrenched on there, so that I would recommend getting that off or broke loose before pulling the actual timing belt off, because you don't want to move your cam or your crankshaft because you'll bend your valves and then your motor's toast. So recommend cracking that loose, so you just have to give it a little force to get it off, and try and make sure those timing marks are still lined up. Once you pull that off, you can get the balancer and the crank pulley off, which is this guy. They have like a keyway, so there's really only one way they can go on, so just make sure they're lined up to the timing marks on the cover. Once you pull that off, then you have to get this intermediate shaft off, or pulley, which is for your oil pump, which sits right here. So that just comes off. That can spin, doesn't matter. Then once that off, everything's off. Then there's 4 bolts that are 10 mils, and then there's 2 13s down low. And then if your oil pan's still in, there's 3 in the bottom for the oil pan. And then that cover will come off, and it'll look like this. So that's your intermediate shaft seal, is that one, and then that's your front main seal. Mine was pretty sludgy, so I wanted to clean it up and change the seal because I already bought one. I forgot to get the intermediate shaft seal. Mine doesn't look too bad, luckily, so we'll just leave it. But I would recommend replacing your intermediate shaft seal as well as your front main seal. So we got those two out. We need to change the seal on that one. And then this is the old water pump. It actually doesn't look too bad, but we bought one, so we'll replace it. So for now, I'm gonna clean all this crap up because there's a lot of stuff on the front cover. And then I'll show you guys how to replace this front main seal really quick and easy. So I'm gonna clean some stuff up, and then we'll go over seal replacement. Alright guys, we got the cover cleaned up pretty good. Try and show you there. Pretty clean. So now, in order to get the front main seal out, you're gonna need a seal driver. So it looks like this. But this came from Harbor Freight if you have one near you. But it just looks like this, and it comes with a bunch of different size drives, so you just have to find the one that matches, and then set your cover down and put this on the seal, and then all you have to do is, alright, we got the seal out. That thing was pretty rusty in there, so it's a good thing I'm replacing it. Once you get it out, it might take a couple smacks. I had to smack it pretty damn hard to get the seal out. But once you get it out, just make sure to kind of clean this area up where the seal actually sits. And then put a little oil on the seal and where the seal sits on your new seal. And just smack it in. Try not to give it too much force putting it in. It really shouldn't take that much force to get the new seal back in. Just make sure you have it kind of lubed up. After we do that, we got the block pretty cleaned up, so it looks a lot better than it did. Obviously this isn't gonna look like a brand new built motor, but it's good enough for it to work. So once we get this seal in, I'll put the seal in real quick, and then it's basically just a reverse if I got it out. Just make sure it goes in the right way. A trick is to look at this shaft seal and just make sure it kind of goes in the same way. There's kind of like an empty back, and then it's like a flat on the front. So just make sure that goes in right. And then once we get that in, we'll put the cover back on, kind of put everything back in, kind of cleaned up a little bit. Water pump, new timing belt, and we'll have to change these seals up here too. And then, yeah, then all the hard stuff's done, then we can just do the easy stuff. So let me get the seal back in, and then we'll start putting everything back together. Alright you guys, we got the front main seal replaced. Don't forget to use some oil, it really helps on the install. And then replace your eccentric shaft as well for the oil pump. And then we just use some ultra black gasket maker for the gasket for this cover, because I think it had like a cork or like a paper gasket on it from factory, but that kind of dissolved. So we just used some gasket maker on that. We put it in loosely, kind of pressed it down, and then I'll go back and torque it right about now because it's been a little bit. But that's all cleaned up. We got the crank pulley on still. Our timing is still in check, which is good. This has a keyway, so you don't have to worry about getting it on the right way. It'll just go on automatically. And then we put our main bolt back in. I haven't torqued that. I'm gonna wait till the timing's set to re-torque that. And I'll probably wait till it's in the car. But after that, we're going to put our new water pump in. So that's the next thing we'll put on. And then at the same time, at the same time, we're going to be changing these seals on the end of the head. They sit on like the shaft where the rockers sit. So there's two in the back, two in the front. They're the same. That big gasket set I got from SCP comes with them. There's one in my pocket. So we're gonna pop those out. Make sure to put oil on these as well. You don't want to put in a dry seal. And then once we have that on and the water pump, we'll clean the head up a little bit because it still needs a little love. And then valve cover goes on, and then we'll throw the timing belt on and put the tensioner in, and then that'll be all good. And then we'll keep going. So I'm gonna start with the water pump, and then I'll do these upper seals. Alright guys, we got these front, well you can't see them now because I put the gasket on, but we got all the seals in, got oil on them so they don't dry out. And then I just put a little oil on the head because I know it hasn't seen any in a long time, so just wanted to put a little on before you seal it up. And then now we're gonna grab my mess. We're gonna get our valve cover. This is one off the old motor. It's got just like a spray paint job on it. It's not the prettiest, but I'm gonna wait to get a new set powder coated. So all we're gonna do now is put the valve cover back on, and then from there I'm gonna get the timing belt on and the tensioner, and we'll finish the front end, get the covers back on, and then that should be a good majority of the work done. And then we just really have like all the accessories like intake manifold, exhaust, and the oil pan. I forgot we didn't have the oil pan on. So we're just gonna get all that done, and might call it good for tonight because it's getting kind of cold. But let's get the valve cover on, and then I'm gonna line up this timing belt, and then we'll get the tensioner on. Alright you guys, unfortunately I didn't film that because I was fidgeting with this for a good minute. But we got the new Gates timing belt on and the new tensioner. So everything's back together. It was kind of a struggle to get this wrapped around, but I kind of found the easiest way is to get it around the cam sprocket and the crank sprocket and then slip it over the tensioner. I'm not sure if there's a specific way you should do it, but timing marks still lined up. I did a full rotation. Everything sounded fine, and the timing marks again lined up where they should after the rotation. So I'm gonna tighten everything down, and the timing, that top bolt is in the same position that it was when I took it off. So everything's new, it looks good. So I'm gonna just pop the timing covers on real quick, throw the distributor on, get the front end kind of buttoned up, and then really the last thing we got to do is put the oil pan on, and then just like the manifolds, and that's pretty much it. But that's a pretty good learning experience for me. I've never timed a motor before, and it's kind of nerve-wracking. But just make sure your timing marks are lined up, and it's pretty straightforward besides that. And just give everything a good clean when you do it. But we'll get the timing covers back on, and then we'll rotate the motor and we'll slap the oil pan on. Alright you guys, that's where we're going to stop for tonight. It's getting kind of cold outside, and quite frankly this garage is not heated, so I don't want to be out here that long. But all the progress we've made tonight, I know I didn't show most of this because it's just kind of tedious little work, and I did a bunch of cleaning. Girlfriend helped me clean too, so we got everything clean for the most part. Obviously it's not sparkling because motor's pretty old and greasy, but it's pretty clean for what it was. So we got all this front stuff back on: timing covers, fan clutch, water pump pulley, like the belt pulley on the bottom, and your balance shaft. There's a bunch of coolant that leaked out when I flipped it upside down. I guess there was still coolant in the motor or water. Got brackets back on, and I broke my dipstick in the process. Good thing I have another motor. Got the intake manifold on, valve cover on, all the gaskets on, valve cover, and then oil pan gasket. And just remember that only goes on one way. So basically all that's left is little stuff like spark plugs. I'll swap out the oil filter while it's out of the car. And then the only big thing left is the rear main seal and the clutch install, which I'm probably going to make a separate video on doing the clutch and the rear main. And I wanted to go over everything you're going to need to do a manual swap, because I figured that'd help. Because I planned on doing a manual swap specific video series, but obviously the motor had to be replaced, so that didn't happen. But we'll get everything covered, and hopefully you guys found that video helpful or useful in any way, shape, or form. All that maintenance is able to be done in the car as well as out, so if your motor's out for just a refresh, that's good stuff to do. Head gasket is good too. Hopefully you guys liked that video. If you did, leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below and I'll try to answer them. But I'll see you guys on the next one.